My father rescued the emperor, who was disguised and traveling incognito, and subsequently ascended to the rank of a duke, intending to bring me to the capital to assume the role of a young lady. I shall no longer serve as a foot washer in the count's residence. Clutching the letter with delight, I sought out the eldest son to share the news that the count's household had found a solution to their predicament in the court, where they had faced exclusion. However, I overheard him speaking to the matriarch, saying, "I am betrothed to Miss Su from the minister's residence. It is unnecessary for Lin Xiangyo to be informed. She is merely a foot washer. Should she bear offspring in the future, being a concubine would be a considerable elevation for her. For the next few days, send her to the estate outside the city to avoid inconveniencing Miss Su." I stood in the corridor, at a loss, concealing the letter in my bosom repeatedly. Just as dusk began to fall, I donned my floral coat and left the residence. I was to await my father's arrival at the 10-mile-long pavilion. As for the eldest son, let my past act of saving his life be forgotten, akin to feeding it to the dogs. He constantly berates me for my perceived foolishness, deeming my intellect lacking. Yet, he is utterly mistaken. Did I not successfully deceive the gatekeeper and exit the residence unscathed? I am indeed clever. 1. Anxious about the closing of the city gates, I hurried along the path. It had been many years since I last saw my father, and after some contemplation, I decided to take a detour to purchase his favorite drunken tofu flour. When I arrived breathlessly at the city gate, it had already closed. The night enveloped everything in darkness, stirring a sense of unease within me. In my desperation, I offered a silver coin to the guard, hoping for leniency. The elder, sensing my urgency, hesitantly replied, "Today is unlike any other. A noble is entering the city, and we must close the gates early." Just as I was about to plead further, I noticed the gates slowly opening. A luxurious carriage, flanked by guards, gradually made its way into the city. The elder tugged at my sleeve, prompting me to kneel beside him. To my astonishment, I saw a tiger flag hanging from the carriage, black background with yellow emblem. It was my father. Elated, I rose and waved towards the carriage, exclaiming, "Father, it's me, Xiang Xiang. I'm here," I called out. Suddenly, a guard beside me pushed me down, causing me to wince in pain and tears to well in my eyes. The guards surrounding the carriage drew their swords, glaring at me with vigilance. I had never encountered such a scene, and fear gripped me, forcing me to cover my backside and remain silent. All I could do was hope my father would hear my voice and come to see me. "Who goes there?" a voice from within the carriage demanded, filled with authority. My heart sank, as this was not my father's voice. Seeing my silence, a guard roughly pulled me closer. "My master inquires why you do not speak." I finally managed to murmur, "I am Lin Xiangyo, searching for my father." The man inside the carriage lifted part of the curtain and glanced at me. "Your surname is Lin? What is your father's name?" "Linaga." The man paused for a moment, seemingly exhaling in disbelief. "Allow Miss Lin to enter, and inform Duke Zhonghua that he need not come to Wanzhou to fetch anyone. Miss Lin shall return to the capital with us shortly." 2. With those few words, the gazes of those around me shifted. A man with a shrill voice made a gesture to assist me, but I smiled and waved him off. "I can manage on my own. Thank you, sir." His face turned pale with fear as he quickly declined. The carriage was vast, spacious enough for me to lie down and roll around. However, a question arose in my mind. Who is Duke Zhonghua? The man looked at me, surprised. "Your father." "Oh." How utterly unbelievable. My father is truly a duke. As the man twirled a jade ring on his finger, he curiously asked, "How did you deduce that this is your father's carriage?" His eyes sparkled like a clear spring under the moonlight, causing my heart to skip a beat. I joyfully retrieved the letter my father had written for me from my pocket to show him. He accepted the thick stack, frowning in confusion as he glanced between the letter and me. With pride, I pointed to the numerous circles and crosses on the letter, explaining, "This large segment shows my father laughing. He is very happy. The latter part tells me that our ancestral grave is emitting green smoke." I looked up at the man to ensure he understood before continuing. Yet I noticed a twitch at his temple. "Are you all right?" "I am fine." "Fine?" His dialect must be quite peculiar. I continued enthusiastically. "This series of lines and boxes indicates that my father will arrive in such a carriage to fetch me." "See? It's the tiger flag hanging outside your carriage." He nodded, indicating he understood. I felt a swell of pride as I elaborated, my father cannot read. Only I can comprehend his letters. The man nodded again, acknowledging my words. Observing the unbidden smile in his eyes, I felt a flutter in my chest. Had I never been to the capital, would everyone there be as enchanting as him? 3. I inquired further, is your nickname Gu? The man paused, then patiently clarified. You may call me Aiken. Outside the carriage, footsteps grew erratic. Aiken, displeased, wrapped his fingers on the small table before him. The outside noise quickly returned to orderly footsteps. They seem quite intimidated by you, yet I find you not intimidating at all. He smiled. I believe your assessment is quite accurate. From my sleeve, I pulled out a piece of pea cake and broke it in half, offering one half to Aiken. I nibbled on the other half, savoring it as the finest treat in the world. However, Aiken merely stared at the pea cake, neither eating nor intending to return it, which I found peculiar. That night, we stayed at the Junyu Inn, the most extravagant establishment in Luanzhou. Aiken even summoned a maid to attend to me. Dong Lu appeared significantly older than me, often stealing glances filled with curiosity and scrutiny. I offered her a piece of pea cake, yet she seemed quite resistant and disdainful. It was a slight disappointment to discover that someone did not enjoy pea cake. Nevertheless, it was the last piece, and if she wouldn't eat it, I certainly would. The following day, before dawn, Dong Lu came to rouse me, presenting new garments, a cloud brocade dress. The matriarch of the Earl's residence possessed only one, worn solely on significant occasions. It was said that this dress could sustain an ordinary family for a lifetime without worry. To my astonishment, Dong Lu brought me 3 sets. I recoiled in alarm, my face expressing sheer terror. Such finery was far beyond my means. Before I even arrived in the capital, I would be burdened with an insurmountable debt to my father. For, upon entering Aiken's carriage, I found him preparing tea. With graceful fingers, he poured a cup and slid it towards me. Give it a taste. I drank it in one gulp, noting both bitter and fragrant notes. Not particularly palatable. I shall not drink it further. Do not pour me more. Aiken's tense expression softened into a fleeting smile. He glanced at me, but the smile quickly faded. What is it? Do you not like the new clothes? Please, just make do for now. Luanzhou is remote, and upon returning to the capital, there will be many more styles available, and we can procure new garments then. I grasped his sleeve, exclaiming, No, no. Those clothes are far too extravagant. If I wear them, my father would have to slaughter pigs for 100 lifetimes to earn back the cost. Aiken froze, his demeanor blossoming like a blooming epiphyllum. His laughter both cool and radiant, an unexpected enchantment. I felt an inexplicable tightness in my chest, struggling to breathe for a moment. Observing my daze, he ceased laughing, lightly tapping my head with his folding fan. Your father is now Duke Zhonghua. Such garments, whether 100 or 1,000, he can certainly procure for Miss Xiangyou.
Ah?
So my father had not deceived me. Our ancestral grave truly was emitting green smoke. Being a duke far surpassed being a pig butcher. As the carriage approached the intersection, it abruptly halted after a commotion. Have you lost your wits? How dare you block the carriage of the Earl's eldest son? At those words, my face drained of color, tension coursing through my body. Aiken sensed my unease and quietly asked, Do you know them? I nodded, then shook my head. He chuckled. What is this? Do you know them or not? Leaning closer, I whispered in his ear, I knew them before, but now I wish to pretend I do not. Is that permissible? He seemed to ponder this, then casually lifted the curtain to summon the sharp-voiced elder, whispering instructions before leisurely pouring himself another cup of tea. 5. What a wretched Earl's eldest son. This carriage holds the legitimate daughter of Duke Zhonghua. Should you offend her, beware for your heads. I couldn't help but smile. The elder's pompous tone was quite amusing. After a brief silence, Lin Zhao himself descended from the carriage, cupping his hands in greeting. The esteemed young master Lin Zhao of the Earl Xingsheng's residence, humbly pay my respects to the young lady. It was merely a thoughtless servant who acted inappropriately. I hope you will not take offense. As I found myself at a loss, Achin signaled for silence. Outside the carriage, my uncle flicked his whisk and remarked with displeasure, Young master, do release your hold. Our young lady is of priceless worth. Is it your intention to engage in a petty dispute in the middle of the street? Lin Zhao, visibly anxious, stepped aside, allowing his carriage to clear the path. I exhaled a sigh of relief, For reasons unknown, I wished to avoid a direct confrontation with him and preferred that he remained oblivious to my current identity. Our carriage continued onward into the city. Before long, my uncle caught up to us and whispered, "That young master just offered a sum of 10 taels to inquire about our Miss Zhongguagong." I sensed an unsettling demeanor about him. Ah Chen closed his folding fan, clearly displeased. "Accept the money and keep it. What sort of wretch dares to share such matters with me?" I fidgeted with my fingers, feeling a turbulent storm within. At the tender age of 8, I entered the Earl's residence. They had ventured to Zhangzhou, 1,000 miles away, and upon seeing me, the matriarch took an instant liking to me, insisting that my father sell me to them as a maid. My father, being my sole guardian, was reluctant. However, my mother's grave illness demanded considerable funds for her treatment. In secret, I sought out the Earl's household and sold myself, exchanging my fate for the means to heal my mother. The initial days within the estate were a struggle. I longed for my parents. Lin Zhao, who was 2 years my senior, often sought my company. Yet, the matrons of the household continually scolded me for being restless at such a young age. It was not until I turned 10 that Lin Zhao was bitten by a snake. I attempted to emulate the village doctor's method of extracting the poison, but I had forgotten that the doctor expelled the venom, whereas I swallowed it. I acted swiftly, and Lin Zhao suffered no serious harm, merely lost a bit of blood and was weak for a few days. However, I was not so fortunate. I endured excruciating pain for 3 days and nights. The physician examined me repeatedly, hesitantly suggesting that my condition was dire. I did not wish to perish. I still awaited a reunion with my parents. Yet the household seemed indifferent to my plight, leaving me to languish without care. The estate's large yellow dog was my closest companion. Upon my illness, it too grew anxious, refusing to eat for several days, constantly sniffing and licking me. After a day of absence, it returned with a mouthful of grass, urging me to eat. Though I had no desire, it was a gesture of loyalty I could not disregard. The dry grass had little flavor, and as I thought of my parents, I cried while consuming it. Unbeknownst to me, once I finished, a wave of nausea struck, and I vomited a significant amount of black blood. After some time, I surprisingly felt my strength returning. The yellow dog perked up and again ventured out to fetch more grass. I continued to eat, and after 7 days, I regained my health, having emerged from the brink of death. However, from that point onward, I felt as if my mind were perpetually clouded, my reactions often slower than others. Yet, I remained joyful. I was still alive. The matron and the elderly lady rewarded me handsomely with silver and tailored me many new garments. Most importantly, they gifted me the yellow dog, allowing me to take it with me should I ever marry and leave the estate. But where was the yellow dog? How could I have forgotten it while preparing to enjoy a life of comfort in the capital? Guilt welled within me, and tears streamed down my face.
Ashen,
seated across from me, observed my mixed emotions and handed me a handkerchief, bewildered. My uncle, hearing the commotion from outside the carriage, called out, "What troubles the young lady?" "Oh, young master, do temper your ferocity. You have made her weep." Ah Chun, visibly displeased, rapped the table again. I grasped his sleeve and knelt, pleading, "What shall I do if I left the yellow dog behind? Will it resent me for living a good life without it?" Ah Chun paused, his expression darkening. "Who is this yellow dog? A man, perhaps?" I shook my head. "It is my faithful companion." The man fell silent, his expression one of incredulity. The carriage had exited the western gate of Wanzhou City and halted on the official road. The group exchanged glances, uncertain of the next course of action. My uncle, known as Gonggong Qingshan, was the most trusted aide to Ah Chen. Seeing my distress, he remarked that the Duke of Zhongguo would surely be heartbroken upon witnessing my sorrow. He promptly assured me he would fetch the yellow dog. I waited from the break of dawn through the thick fog until the sun was high in the sky. Finally, Gonggong Qingshan returned. The yellow dog was overjoyed to see me, grinning widely. Ah Chen had the servants bring forth plenty of jerky for the dog, and I indulged as well. "Are you happy now?" I nodded earnestly, embracing the dog's head, reluctant to part. If I had forgotten the yellow dog, my life of luxury in the capital would be forever unsettled. Perhaps I might weep myself to death. Ah Chen chuckled. "If it is so vital, how did you leave it behind yesterday?" I quickly covered the yellow dog's ears. Such words should not be heard. "It is all Lin Zhao's fault. He made me so furious I lost my wits.
Oh,
Ah Chun leaned closer, intrigued, but I had no intention of divulging the details. Gong Gong Qingshan flicking his whisk.
seemed hesitant to speak.
Strangely enough, when I went to the Earl Xingsheng's residence to claim this dog, the attendants initially refused to part with it. They insisted that it belonged to Miss Xiangyu. If she returned from the countryside without her dog, she would surely weep. However, upon learning it was for me, the young master personally delivered the yellow dog to me. He even remarked that it was merely a beast, if it could elicit a smile from the Duke's daughter. It was indeed fortunate. I lowered my head, remaining silent, feeling a twinge of resentment. Ah Chun stood and boarded the carriage, instructing, "Do not speak of such sordid matters to me again." He then turned to me, "Will you not join us, Xiang Xiang?" The way he pronounced my name was unexpectedly melodious and pleasing to my ears. However, Gong Gong Qingshan and the other guards displayed expressions of astonishment. "What troubles you?" "Nothing at all, merely admiring the splendid peach blossoms on the mountains." Gong Gong Qingshan flicked his whisk and stepped aside, while I pondered the peculiar sight of peach blossoms blooming in the depths of autumn. Ah Chen's destination was Lushur Town, located west of Wanzhou City. However, it was strange to find the land scorched, yet it did not appear to have been abandoned for long. A sense of dread washed over me. Was there a fire here? Where are the people? They must have escaped, right? I asked Ah Chun, my heart heavy with worry. Gong Gong Qingshan, however, kept winking at me, signaling discreetly. Suddenly, Ah Chun halted, blocking my view of a heap of charred corpses behind him. "Qingshan, take Xiang Xiang to the carriage for rest." Faced with the man's ghastly countenance, I complied, though I had already seen the horror. I was not afraid. Following Gong Gong Qingshan, I glanced back repeatedly. My heart ached at the thought of so many lives lost. It was a tragedy. Such a large town had perished in flames, yet Wanzhou City was nearby. How could I have heard nothing? An inexplicable discomfort settled in my heart. I requested a shovel from the accompanying guards and sought a flat area to begin digging. Gong Gong Qingshan gasped dramatically, "My lady, what are you attempting to do?" I paused, breathless, digging a grave for them. Those whose bones are exposed to the elements cannot be reborn. The venerable master Qingshan was momentarily taken aback, his gaze shifting between surprise and a depth I could not comprehend. His eyes flitted back and forth between me and Ah Chun, an oddity indeed. With a wave of his hand, he beckoned others who had been idling to join me in the excavation. De Huang, though unable to dig, fetched a wooden plank, which would serve perfectly as a gravestone later. Truly, he is a clever and admirable dog. That night, we set up camp amidst the ruins of Lushur Town. As I gazed up at the starry sky for the first time while drifting into slumber, a sense of novelty washed over me. Yet, Ah Chun remained burdened with unspoken thoughts. Each time he cast his eyes upon a charred remnant of the ruins, an uncontrollable fury flickered in his gaze. I tugged at his sleeve, inquiring, "Are there family members of yours here?" He nodded. "These are all my subjects." How tragic that their lives were entangled in this power struggle without cause. Perhaps until their last breath, they remained oblivious to the identity of their murderer. I fell silent, sensing that Ah Chen's mind was rather troubled. What was he rambling about? I was just settling down with De Huang when a group of torchbearers approached in the distance. Their attire bore a resemblance to the servants of the Earl's estate. Upon closer inspection, dread washed over me. Lin Zhao had arrived. I instinctively ducked into the tent, my heart racing. Ah Chen's soft, disdainful snort pierced my ears, and I felt an inexplicable shame as if I had been caught in wrongdoing. Lin Zhao, with great flourish, brought an abundance of food and drink, even chairs and tables. It was rather extravagant. Under the flickering torchlight, Ah Chen's figure appeared both regal and aloof. He looked down at Lin Zhao, questioning, "What is the meaning of this, young master? Are you tracking us?" The tone of his voice, whether a figment of my imagination or not, carried an air of menace. Lin Zhao inexplicably knelt, his voice trembling. "You exited through the West City Gate. There is but one refuge here in Lushur Town. I have overstepped, fearing that the young lady might lack provisions in this remote wilderness. Hence my audacity in bringing supplies." Master Qingshan, visibly displeased, waved his whisk. "What nonsense is this, young master? Our lady is no beggar and does not require the unsolicited charity of strangers." Peering through the tent seam, I caught sight of Lin Zhao's crestfallen expression. and a flicker of satisfaction surged within me. Yet Ah Chen stepped closer, blocking my view. Your goodwill is acknowledged, young master. But it is best you return with your offerings. The hour grows late. Lin Zhao, however, seemed unwilling to depart, realizing he had knelt without cause. His face flushed with indignation, perhaps feeling he had compromised his stature as the Earl's eldest son. His tone shifted, becoming less courteous, regardless. I am the eldest son of the prosperous Earl's estate. It is only proper for the young lady to come forth and greet me, given my late-night venture through the chill. As he spoke, he began to approach the tent. The guards formed a line, drawing their swords to shield Ah Chen and me. Lin Zhao hesitated, taking a fearful step back, yet he reluctantly clasped his hands in farewell. If that is the case, I shall take my leave. Just as I exhaled in relief, a gust of wind whipped through the trees, lifting the tent flaps, and a Huang barked, darting outside. I called out anxiously, "De Huang, stay put." Lin Zhao turned sharply, disbelief etched across his features. I hastily covered my mouth, but it was too late. Lin Zhao strode purposefully toward the tent. Ah Chen's voice turned icy. "Have you truly considered your next move, young master?" Lin Zhao halted, addressing the tent with a commanding tone. "Lin Xiangyou, come forth." "I have heard your voice." I strained to respond in a high-pitched whisper. "How dare you raise your voice so?" The sound emerged as if from another person altogether. Ah Chen glanced back at the tent, a glimmer of suppressed amusement in his eyes. When he turned to Lin Zhao, his expression reverted to one of stern propriety. "You must have misheard, young master. There is no young lady of the Lin family here. Should you advance further, you risk tarnishing my lady's reputation. The Duke has recently gained favor with the Emperor. Do you think he would spare you then? Or would the Emperor show you mercy?" Though Lin Zhao remained perplexed, after a moment of contemplation, he clasped his hands in apology and departed hastily. I finally let out a sigh of relief.
He scolded the Wang.
"Why are you so disobedient? If you run off again, I shall be angry." Ah Chen, sitting beside me, teased, "Your angry words are rather pitiful. Did I cause you trouble just now?" I fidgeted with my fingers, feeling a pang of guilt. Ah Chen, already vexed, was further distressed by Lin Zhao's disturbance. He shook his head, pressing a steaming kettle of soup into my arms. "Such trivial matters do not warrant my annoyance. But what of your interactions with that young Master Lin?" I hesitated, lowering my gaze. "I have been a servant at the Earl's estate since I was 8, and today marks 7 years. Are you still a slave?" Ah Chen regarded me calmly, yet I felt as if he could see through my heart. My face flushed inexplicably. "Last year, I saved enough silver to buy my freedom, and my mistress, being kind-hearted, agreed to release me from servitude. If you could have returned home last year, why the delay? Does it have anything to do with that young Master Lin?" I abruptly lifted my head, realizing he could indeed perceive my inner turmoil. I remained silent, unsure of what to say. Ah Chen, too, was quiet, yet I sensed his discontent. "Do not dwell on him. He is not a good person." Once we arrive in the capital, I widened my eyes, straining to hear the rest of his words. He parted the tent flap and left, urging me to sleep early. We returned to the capital 5 days later. Ah Chen was busy, with pigeons flying in and out, and many riders delivering messages. Most of the time, he was responding to letters. The jostling of the carriage and the torrential rain could not distract him in the slightest. I felt he must be a highly capable official. His handwriting was exquisite, far surpassing Lin Zhao's. Yet he never expressed disdain for my clumsiness. He always praised me, saying my ink grinding was commendable. My sunflower seeds were quickly shelled, and my laughter was even sweeter than that of the yellow oriole. The joy I experienced in those few days surpassed the entirety of my 7 years at the Earl's estate. Before I knew it, we had arrived in the capital. From a distance, I spotted my father at the 10-mile-long pavilion, craning his neck to see me. "Ah Chen, look, my father has come to fetch me. It has been 7 years since I last saw him. How he has lost so much weight. His hair has turned so white." As the carriage drew closer, my smile faltered. Before it had come to a complete halt, I leaped down. "Father, why have you lost an arm?"
Wah.
"Father, where is your arm?" I wept bitterly, my heart aching intensely. "Xiang, Xiang, look at these delicacies I have prepared for you. You must be famished." I sobbed. "Father, where has your arm gone?" "Xiang, Xiang, the Duke's estate is grand, We shall no longer worry about food and clothing. I tugged at my father's empty sleeve, continuing to weep. Wah. How could you have lost your arm? Ah Chen dismounted from the carriage as well. My father, with a sudden thud, knelt down, proclaiming, I pay my respects to His Highness the Crown Prince. My body froze. Wiping my tears, I turned to look. Ah Chen first helped my father to his feet, then produced a handkerchief to dry my tears, softly comforting me. The Duke sacrificed his arm to save the Emperor. The entire royal family is grateful for his deeds. My father's eyes fell upon the handkerchief, and his face turned ashen. Hastily, I received the silk handkerchief, carelessly brushing it across my face a few times. Then, as if it were a hot potato, I returned the handkerchief to Ah Chen. This child, Xiang, has endured much hardship over the years, far from the refined manners of those noble ladies. Your Highness, please do not take offense. As he spoke, my father grasped my hand and pulled me behind him. Ah Chen's gaze flickered, dimming slightly. He spoke softly, let us part ways for now. I shall visit again on another day. Knowing he was the Crown Prince left me feeling somewhat stifled, unable to articulate my discontent. Why did you not reveal your identity to me sooner? You kept it hidden for so long. As we approached my father's carriage, I could no longer restrain my curiosity and questioned him. Ah Chen stepped closer, took my hand, and placed a jade pendant in my palm, saying, return home for now. Be cautious of the cold wind lest you fall ill. Once I am free in a few days, I shall visit you at the Duke's residence. At that time, you may scold or chastise me as you wish. My face flushed, and my heart raced as I replied, how could I dare to strike the Crown Prince?
Do not jest.
15. Just as the carriage pulled away, my father suddenly slapped himself across the face. Alarmed, I hurried to check his forehead. Father, are you all right? Did you injure yourself while rescuing me? He sighed heavily. I should have gone to fetch you myself. I should not have allowed you to return with His Highness. I was puzzled, but the journey was quite pleasant. He even bought me fine brocade to wear. My father glanced at the large gemstone hairpin atop my head and the aquamarine bracelet on my wrist, his expression growing increasingly regretful. He slapped himself again, muttering, it's all over, it's all over. I had no mind to listen to his ramblings and clung to his tattered sleeve, weeping sorrowfully. The thought of how much pain he must have endured when his arm was severed made my heart ache even more. Realizing that I had only just returned to my father's side after all I had suffered for that scoundrel Lin Zhao, I couldn't help but slap myself as well. When my mother opened the carriage door, she was greeted by the sight of both my father and me, each forlornly slapping our own faces. Startled, she shouted for a doctor. 16. Everything in the capital was splendid. The resplendent mansion, the soft and fragrant bed, and the silver chopsticks and bowls used for meals. It was said that the servants in the residence were personally chosen by the Emperor. Having lived in the Duke's household for only a short while, I had already become quite pampered. Yet my mother lamented my slenderness, claiming I looked pitiful. However, my bosom was rapidly filling out. When she measured me for new garments, she could hardly contain her delight. Yet I found it rather inconvenient. I could no longer run about freely as I once did. Running now caused discomfort in my chest. When the Crown Prince visited, I was bathing De Huang, who had been beaten by a few dogs from the West Street and had fallen into a latrine. As I washed him, he whimpered pathetically. Anger surged within me, and I contemplated taking a stick to those wretched dogs for revenge. The Crown Prince laughed, his eyes lighting up with amusement. Xiang, are you angry again? Dressed casually for the task of bathing the dog, the scene around me was chaotic, and my clothes were drenched. I was caught between standing up and squatting down to continue washing De Huang. Should I bow to you first? The Crown Prince lightly tapped my forehead with his fan, saying, no need.
Oh, very well. I was quite occupied at that moment.
17. The jade pendant you gave me the other day, my father said I should not keep it carelessly, and instructed me to return it when I see you. The Crown Prince's expression faltered, and he seemed somewhat displeased. Do you wish to return it?
He remained silent, meticulously drying the Huang's fur.
The Crown Prince crouched before me, taking the cloth to continue wiping the dog's coat, doing so with far more methodical care than I had. He also called for someone to drape a garment over my shoulders. Absently, I remarked, you are the Crown Prince. My father says I should not get too close to you. My father also mentioned that there are man-eating beasts in the Eastern Palace, and if I do not heed his warnings, I might be lured back home by you to be devoured by those beasts. Pausing, I earnestly inquired, is there truly such a thing that eats people in your home? The crown prince fell silent for a long moment, casting a shadowed glance my way before returning to wipe De Huang. When he departed, he did not take back the jade pendant I had intended to return. Instead, he placed a peach blossom hairpin atop my head. Xiang Xiang, do not listen to your father. He is deceiving you. The Eastern Palace is quite pleasant, filled with beautiful clothes and endless delicious dishes. Even if there were beasts, I would protect you. Do you not believe me? I nodded. Of course I believed him. His satisfaction with my response was evident, and he affectionately ruffled my hair. He promised to take me to the Western Mountain in a few days to enjoy roasted venison, and there were even a few adorable newborn foals. I happily nodded, joyfully bidding him farewell. 18. Unfortunately, I caught sight of my father in the front courtyard. He seemed rather displeased, tossing the donkey meat pie he had brought for me directly to De Huang. The foolish dog was overjoyed. My father first bowed to the crown prince, then stood up and said to De Huang, "Behave, and you shall have meat to eat. Misbehave, and you can only watch the dog eat." I was confused, gazing up at my father in bewilderment. The crown prince chuckled. "Does the duke not know Xiang Xiang as well as I do? Your words are so obscure they might as well be left unsaid." My father, unable to contain himself, broke down in tears. Literally, tears streamed from his eyes. My Xiang Xiang was once so clever and understanding. Even the village schoolmaster praised her, saying that if she pursued her studies, she would surely surpass the boys. It is my fault for being useless, allowing my child to serve others for 7 years. I cannot fathom how much suffering and hardship she has endured over these years. A once lively girl has now become so dim-witted. I waved my hand, wanting to convey that I had actually fared quite well over the years. The crown prince, however, seemed to ponder deeply as he turned to me and asked, "Have you ever suffered an injury to your head?" I shook my head no. He inquired further, "Have you ever consumed anything harmful or been poisoned?" I considered this. There had been an incident the time De Huang saved me. The crown prince sighed softly, dispatching someone to summon several imperial physicians to examine my pulse. My father looked at the crown prince with dawning realization, his face revealing a mixture of admiration and regret, as if to say, "Of course, you are the crown prince." 19. The physicians took turns examining my pulse, each one kind and benevolent in demeanor, unlike the doctors from the earl's residence, who would roll their eyes at the mere mention of a remedy for wind and cold. The physicians huddled together, murmuring in thick accents. My father anxiously squeezed my hand. The crown prince furrowed his brow, coughing lightly as he fixed his gaze on my hand. My father huffed and stepped aside. "Miss Lin is suffering from residual poison. With time, her mind may suffer some impairment. However, it is not serious. With 2 to 3 years of care, she can recover. It is only that the poison has damaged her vital energy, making it difficult to restore her health." The crown prince's eyes reddened immediately. Is it truly beyond the capabilities of the Imperial Medical Bureau to cure her? The physicians looked troubled, kneeling and expressing their inadequacy. My father shed more tears. "Then what of my daughter's future?" The leading physician suddenly lifted his head. "It will not affect her lifespan. Miss Lin will simply require more nourishment and may be slightly more slender than others." Both the crown prince and my father sighed in relief simultaneously. To me, these physicians seemed to be the ones with the problem. Was this really a malady? To eat without gaining weight and still be healthy? Yet that day, the crown prince rewarded me with 2 chefs. I recalled Lin Zhao, who had often scolded me, calling me a pig for eating so much yet always being hungry. Yet he had never considered seeking a physician to properly examine me. Lin Zhao arrived in the capital 3 months later. Although the earl's residence had fallen into decline over the years, reduced to a mere shell of its former self, the foundations of the other branches still remained, and the name of the earl held considerable weight. Furthermore, he had secured a marriage alliance with the influential minister's household, and shortly thereafter, he managed to obtain a respectable position in the capital. Upon relocating his entire family, he even sent an invitation to the duke's household, claiming he intended to host a banquet. With the backing of the minister's household, many accepted the invitation. My father, who cared little for anyone's favor, nonetheless accepted it. Having served as a maid in the earl's residence for 7 years, it was inevitable that my circumstances would become known in the capital. He did not wish to offend anyone, fearing that I might later be disparaged as ungrateful and disregardful of the master-servant bond. Regardless of my experiences within the Earl's residence, to outsiders, I had spent these 7 years under the protection of the Earl. Parents, in their love for their children, often plan for their future. My father and mother were concerned that my reputation might be tarnished, complicating my prospects for marriage. I was well aware of this. Recently, many suitors had come to propose, but most were illegitimate sons. Even the legitimate ones were often those whose families had failed and sought to attach themselves to the Duke's name. In the eyes of the prominent families in the capital, our family was merely a fleeting success, a transient bloom. My father, lacking both literary and martial prowess, was now a physically diminished man, and I had no siblings to rely upon. Hence, the aristocracy looked down upon us. My parents held modest aspirations, hoping only that I could become a legitimate wife. As long as my husband treated me well, and the family did not suffer from want, while my mother-in-law was amiable and my sisters-in-law did not bully me, they were satisfied. They did not think too much beyond that. The Crown Prince sought me out several times afterwards, but was always playfully delayed by my father in the front yard. He was preoccupied with state affairs and had little time to spare. Shortly after, he was dispatched to Qingzhou for work, several hundred miles from the capital. Before leaving, he entrusted someone to send me many delightful curiosities, suggesting that if I ever felt bored, I should visit the gardens of Shishan for leisure. Then, he instructed me to patiently await his return. This unexpected sentiment stirred within me a subtle joy and anticipation. On the day of Lin Zhao's banquet at the Earl's residence, I refrained from attending. My reasons were twofold. I wished to avoid seeing him again, and I did not want to be the subject of ridicule from those noble ladies, both overtly and covertly. However, I neglected to inform my parents that Lin Zhao was still unaware of our family's situation. Consequently, after Lin Zhao subtly recounted our encounter and connections in Lusher town to my father, he was taken aback. He directly inquired, "My daughter Xiangyou has been in your household for 7 years. Have you truly never seen her? How can you claim our meeting is a matter of fate?" The following day, the mistress of the Earl's residence, Lin Zhao's mother, personally visited our home, stating that I had left in haste from Luan Prefecture and had forgotten to bid them farewell. She expressed that Lin Zhao had been preoccupied with thoughts of me, even fearing that I might have been abducted by thieves. Her words brimmed with affection. For a moment, my mother was uncertain, unsure whether I truly had feelings for Lin Zhao. When she called me out, Lin Zhao's mother appeared visibly pleased, remarking that the environment of the capital nourished people well. I greeted her with decorum, saying, "Good day, madam." She took my hand and spoke incessantly about my time in the Earl's residence. My mother listened, tears streaming down her face, alternating between crying and smiling. Yet I felt far from joyful. The Earl's wife spoke with insincerity. During my time there, she rarely regarded me with a kind eye and frequently punished me by making me kneel in the courtyard. Even after I saved Lin Zhao, she merely perceived it as an indication that I was willing to endure hardship for the sake of the Earl's household. The Earl's wife did not take her leave until evening, and that night, Lin Zhao sent someone with a letter inviting me to meet him the next day at Guan Temple. I was reluctant to go, yet I felt it essential to clarify matters between us. After informing my father and explaining the circumstances, I requested several guards to accompany me before departing. I reflected on many things, recalling how after saving Lin Zhao, the entire Earl's residence tacitly assumed I would marry him. To them, becoming Lin Zhao's concubine was the best fate a maid could hope for. Even Lin Zhao seemed to share this belief. However, he treated me with a greater degree of harshness than he did others, leading the household to think he did not harbor any affection for me. I endured countless instances of bullying and exclusion, often mocked by others who believed I overestimated my worth. They claimed my skills in seduction were innate, suggesting I might as well entice the master instead since, regardless of whom I caught the eye of, I would surely achieve my desires. I had confided my grievances to Lin Zhao, asserting that I did not long to marry him and had never attempted to seduce him. I urged him to clarify the situation to others to cease the gossip surrounding me. Yet that day, he coldly retorted, "Lin Xiangyou, if you continue to be so melodramatic, I may truly decide to cast you aside." During festivals, even the customary rewards I received were less than others, justified by the claim that he would not indulge my penchant for dramatics. I could only hold onto my large yellow dog, mourning my sorrows. My mother's health was perpetually poor, while my father tirelessly traveled from village to village, slaughtering pigs for others. The money he earned barely sufficed for my mother's medical needs. The merchant caravans from my hometown would send letters every 6 months. In those letters, my father always asserted that everything was well at home. The merchants would recount the true state of affairs, and I hesitated to spend the little savings I had, preferring to send it back with the merchant uncles for my parents. Last year, I was freed from servitude, a consequence of the Earl's mistress's words to me. The eldest son is concerned about you, but you must understand your own status. Someone like you is unworthy even to be a concubine. If you wish to return to your hometown, I can offer you 50 taels of silver. After a pause, she added, do not blame me for not wanting to keep you. The eldest son's affections cannot be wasted on someone of your standing.
That day,
I returned to the servants' quarters, dazed, clutching my document of freedom and silver, pondering the meaning of the mistress's words. Yet before I could decipher it, Lin Zhao stormed in, knocking the silver from my arms to the ground. Is your pride so shallow that you would forsake it for a mere handful of silver? I was bewildered. What did this have to do with pride? However, that day, Lin Zhao was in a furious frenzy, wreaking havoc in the servants' quarters. He left in a huff, while I sobbed and tidied up amidst the ridicule of others. By the next morning, the mistress gifted me another 50 taels of silver, instructing me to take my time before leaving. I nodded in a daze, not fully understanding the reasons and choosing to ignore them. All I knew was that receiving 100 taels of silver should be a cause for joy. Yet, from that day onward, Lin Zhao's demeanor towards me worsened. Just the thought of him brought tears to my eyes. The carriage rolled over the bluestone path, and I tightened my cloak around me. It was a rainy day, quite chilly. Guan Temple was less crowded than usual. Upon seeing us arrive, Lin Zhao's servant, Fudong, quickly brought an umbrella, stating that the young master awaited me in the eastern garden of the back courtyard. My status had changed significantly. I felt it inappropriate to meet Lin Zhao alone. My maid, Hong Yu, boldly retorted, if arrangements have not been made, we shall take our leave. Seeing that we were genuinely about to depart, Fudong hurriedly intervened, saying he would inform the young master. When Lin Zhao arrived, his expression was far from pleasant. He invited me to speak in the side chamber of the Guanyin Hall. Now that you appear to be a lady of the Duke's household, your demeanor has certainly become more imposing. I responded with a vague acknowledgement. He turned, his eyes glaring. Lin Xiangyou, did you leave without a word out of fear that I might jeopardize your future? Perhaps the recent medicinal concoctions had finally cleared my mind, for at that moment I felt less muddled. My future lies right here. No one can impede it. I merely fear that I might jeopardize the marriage prospects of the esteemed Lin Zhao and the minister's household. He was momentarily speechless, staring at me with disbelief. However, if you were indeed a lady of the Duke's residence, you would naturally be a fitting match for me. You should have informed me of this during your time in Luanzhou. Lin Zhao spoke with an air of such certainty. His gaze upon me was laden with reproach. Lin Zhao, why do you wish to become engaged to me? Is it because I have transformed into a lady of the Duke's residence? He regarded me with a look of derision in his eyes. Lin Xiangyou, you are both foolish and naive, yet insatiable, having clung to me for so many years. Do you not wish to marry me? I do not, I declared with unwavering resolve. His expression faltered, brimming with astonishment. Now that we have met, let us speak plainly. I have merely performed my duties as a servant in the Earl's residence. Had you not spoken of entanglements, I would not have engaged in such debates with you. Your engagement or lack thereof is of no concern to me. Henceforth, refrain from uttering remarks that may tarnish my reputation. I was not inherently a person of sharp demeanor. After such proclamations, Lin Zhao scrutinized me from head to toe, seemingly as if he no longer recognized me. I can withdraw from the engagement, and I shall have my mother personally propose to the Duke's residence. Lin Xiangyou, I can marry you now. No one shall stand in our way. Observing the crestfallen expression on his face, I resolutely replied, no. After all, I am foolish and naive, and insatiable. I am unworthy of you. With that, I turned and walked away, exhaling a breath of pent-up frustration. At the entrance of Guan Temple, I caught sight of the Crown Prince's carriage from afar. He had returned. I quickened my pace, lifting my skirts. The Crown Prince approached me briskly, holding an oiled paper umbrella. Take your time. I am not going to run, I said. Did you not mention that you would not return for another 5 days? The crown prince lowered his head, a smile gracing his features as he gazed at me. It seemed as though I were the sole focus of his attention. I finished my tasks and longed to return sooner. I smiled. He smiled back. But soon the laughter faded. Lin Zhao caught up with us. Lin Xiangyo, I thought you were too dull-witted. How have you become so sharp today?
Ah,
I see you have found a new suitor. His words, accompanied by a look of disdain, rendered me quite uncomfortable. Eunuch Qing Shan, swinging his whisk, interjected with authority. How dare you? His Highness the Crown Prince is present. Who dares to speak so disrespectfully? Lin Zhao's face turned pale. He glanced at me and then at the tightly knit guards surrounding us, before suddenly kneeling. The Crown Prince gently wiped the rain from my brow and softly urged me to wait in the carriage. From a distance, through the rain and mist, I heard him say, the Earl of Xingsheng, is that correct? I have heard that the eldest son has just secured a lucrative position in the Ministry of Works. Lin Zhao replied, his voice tinged with anxiety. Returning to your highness, I just took office 5 days ago. The Crown Prince responded with a non-committal before turning to the carriage. Lin Zhao remained kneeling in the rain, too afraid to rise. Eunuch Qing Shan, with a sharp tone, advised, young master, why must you repeatedly provoke the Crown Prince? This Lin young lady, regardless of her past, is no longer someone you can afford to entangle with. Old servant has spoken all that he can. Young master, ponder this carefully. Halfway through, I saw my father arriving in a carriage to fetch me. However, upon seeing the Crown Prince, his demeanor soured. He stood before a carriage without an umbrella, glaring. Lin Xiangyo, did I not prepare a carriage for you? You lack propriety. How can you ride with the Crown Prince? The Crown Prince meticulously adjusted my cloak before stepping down from the carriage with me. Xiang is frail. Let someone escort her back to the residence first. My father, with his empty sleeves drooping, caused my heart to ache, and tears streamed down my cheeks. Father, shall we return? Xiang, why do you not heed your father's words? I was at a loss for words, feeling that the rain today was particularly vexing. My shoes and clothes were soaked, and my eyes were wet. The Crown Prince had people bring numerous items to my carriage, claiming they were little trinkets to amuse me. My father, looking as if he could not contain his displeasure, said, Your Highness, I will not allow Xiang to serve as a concubine for anyone. I have never intended to subject her to such humiliation. The Crown Prince's words struck me like a thunderclap, sending ripples through my heart. The atmosphere grew tense. After a moment of astonishment, my father calmly stated, But what you desire may not be within your control. The Crown Prince's face displayed determination. If I wish it, I shall make it happen. He paused before adding, You should cease your calculations regarding the young men of the capital. Aside from me, no one else can marry Xiang. I listened in silence, not daring to utter a word, yet their discussion concerned me deeply. The Crown Prince placed a white jade hairpin shaped like a lotus in my hair. He raised his voice generously. Do you now understand my intentions? I looked at my father, whose face was filled with worry, and he appeared so weary. He had been tirelessly concerned for my future and marriage. Lin Zhao was merely the son of an earl. Even though I was now a lady of the Duke's residence, he still perceived me as someone beneath him. How much less could I hope for the Crown Prince, who stood above all? Perhaps it is best to let this go. I do not wish to cause my parents sleepless nights. If I think only of myself, that would be unfilial. Let it go, indeed. This sentiment was directed at the Crown Prince, but also at myself. I removed the hairpin and returned it to him. With my hair empty, it felt as though my heart had also been emptied. The Crown Prince stubbornly placed the hairpin back in my hair, his eyes reflecting deep, uncomprehending sorrow. Lin Xiangyo, I have always been the Crown Prince, lacking for nothing, possessing everything. It was not until I met you that I realized I was missing something. Do you truly not wish to marry me? But I genuinely desire to wed you, to make you my legitimate wife, the only Crown Princess of the Eastern Palace. My father, alarmed, exclaimed, Your Highness, do you intend to bring harm to Xiang? I was nearly dragged away by my father. That very evening, he submitted a petition to the emperor, stating that we could not acclimate to the capital and wished to return to our hometown to establish a residence. The emperor sent word, indicating that he would summon my father to the palace when he was free. I was also placed under strict supervision at home. I could neither go out nor desire to. I could not meet the person I longed to see, nor could I see him again. I resigned myself to awaiting our family's return home. Meanwhile, the news of Lin Zhao's broken engagement with Miss Su of the minister's residence spread like wildfire. It was said that the minister had someone block the entrance of the earl's residence, berating him for 3 days and nights. Miss Su personally threw the betrothal token in Lin Zhao's face. The uproar surrounding this incident was too great. I wished to remain ignorant of it, yet it was impossible. However, I did not expect Lin Zhao to come to the Duke's residence in person to propose. He called me aunt with a familiar warmth. I did not evade him, nor did I wish to. I approached him through the screen. I will not marry you, even if I were to become a nun. Lin Zhao's gentle facade immediately crumbled. In all of the capital, how many can match my status and talents? How many would be willing to marry you? Do you truly fantasize that the crown prince would wed you?
Donot jest, Xiangou.
At those words, my father, displeased, smashed a cup. Young master, please take your leave. I am of butcher stock. Do not compel me to wield my cleaver. Lin Zhao fell to his knees. Uncle, do not take offense at my words. Xiangyou and I are old acquaintances, well acquainted with one another. The Duke's residence is of shallow roots. If we were to marry, it would serve to bolster the Earl's residence. We two families shall henceforth be like intertwined wisteria, united as one. The Duke's residence has officially taken root in the capital. Lin Zhao spoke with undeniable wisdom, having considered every aspect, yet he utterly neglected the one thing my father held most dear. My father's sole desire was for my happiness and well-being. He yearned for me to find a husband who would cherish and love me. The union was impossible. According to my mother, if I were to marry Lin Zhao, I would be reduced to nothing more than a mere remnant, a consequence of deceit. However, within a couple of days, the walls of high society had already spread the word, believing I had usurped the engagement of Miss Su from the minister's residence. They secretly condemned me as shameless, unrefined, and superficial, among other disparaging remarks. Strangely, within half a day, all rumors were quelled. The emperor summoned my father to the palace, and the empress dowager also requested an audience with him. Anxiously, I twisted my handkerchief as I accompanied my father. He reassured me, do not fear, at worst, they will prevent you from marrying the crown prince. They certainly would not resort to harming us. Upon entering the palace, I proceeded to the inner court while my father went to the court. The guide, Granny Zhou, was exceedingly kind, stating that the crown prince had specifically instructed her to fetch me personally, urging me to have faith in him. However, there were many noble ladies in the Empress Dowager's court that day, both familiar and unfamiliar faces, none of whom paid me any heed. Their gazes pierced through me like daggers, scrutinizing me from head to toe, an unenviable sensation. Granny Zhou led me directly to the inner chamber. The Empress Dowager regarded me with kindness, her smile warm as she said, "The Crown Prince has spoken highly of you. I see you are indeed admirable," she continued. "However, he is destined to be the Emperor, and the Empress is a paragon among all women. Are you prepared for that role?" I shook my head. I was not fit for such a position. The Empress Dowager could not suppress her laughter. "This child is quite honest," she remarked, but quickly composed herself, serious once more. "No one is born to be an empress. You must learn. Do not say you cannot. The Crown Prince is exceptionally capable, wise from a young age, and has never disappointed anyone. I believe in his judgment and wish for my grandson to experience joy. After all, that lofty position can be exceedingly lonely. It is better to have someone he genuinely loves by his side." Granny Zhou nudged me. "Young lady, you should thank the Empress Dowager. Her consent means that no one in the palace will dare oppose your union with the Crown Prince." I was momentarily taken aback, responding rather bluntly, "Such a significant matter as marriage must be discussed with my father first." The Empress Dowager burst into laughter once more, tears streaming down her face, praising me as a delightful person. On that day, the Empress Dowager personally took my hand to meet the Emperor. My legs trembled, and I nearly stumbled over the threshold, feeling dejected and embarrassed. To my surprise, I found my father arguing fiercely with the Emperor. "My daughter could marry the Jade Emperor himself, but she will not marry your son." The Empress Dowager was so startled she nearly lost her footing. The Emperor slammed his cup to the ground, exclaiming, "What is wrong with my son? He can read at 3, wield weapons at 4, and began assisting me with governance at 7. What difficulty remains in this world that he cannot resolve? You, a mere butcher, dare to look down upon my son? My father stepped forward, nearly jabbing his finger at the emperor's forehead. Do not think that just because you are the emperor, you are remarkable. I can butcher. Can you? Unbeknownst to me, the crown prince had already taken his place beside me, gently scratching my palm with his fingers. I looked up to find him smiling at me, his gaze silently soothing my anxious heart. The Empress Dowager was also angered, pointing at my father and scolding, "Linego, dare you provoke my son again?" My father, undeterred, retorted, "What business is it of yours when we young people quarrel?" Catching a glimpse of me, he rushed between the crown prince and me, attempting to separate us. Only then did the emperor notice me, scrutinizing me silently before dismissively commenting, "Ordinary. Very ordinary." My father erupted in fury. The emperor threw down a decree and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. My father rushed after him. The crown prince picked up the decree and placed it in my arms. As I unfolded it, I discovered it was a marriage edict. Before I could fully comprehend it, the crown prince grasped my hand and led me outside. "I will take you to the East Palace. My dear, if we delay, the roasted lamb will become cold and unappetizing." The Empress Dowager shouted in exasperation behind us. "Is there no one to attend to this old woman?" I assumed that my engagement to the crown prince was hastily established amidst that day's commotion. Unaware of the multitude of efforts he had made behind the scenes, he efficiently resolved long-standing political matters and untangled the intricate web of familial relationships. As he put it, it was merely a matter of balancing interests. He endeavored to prove to his ministers and the emperor that he, von Zecken, could alter the enduring entanglement of politics and marriage that had long plagued the court. It was no small feat, yet he succeeded. Having been accustomed to the schemes of the inner court, where individuals would stop at nothing for the sake of their maternal clans, he always understood that he was capable of achieving this. To marry me, he needed to traverse this difficult path. Otherwise, he could not ensure my safety after our union. That day, I also learned that the East Palace was devoid of any predatory beasts. Instead, the roasted lamb was tender, juicy, and utterly delectable. I was unexpectedly surprised by the relationship between my father and the emperor. I had imagined it was simply a matter of my father saving the emperor, leading to our family's elevation. In reality, prior to my father's act of bravery, the two had been at odds for several months, exchanging barbs as neighbors. The emperor mocked my father for being a crude butcher, while my father retorted that the emperor, despite his intellect, earned barely 3 copper coins a day. My father would share the surplus entrails he prepared, and the emperor's tales were more captivating than those of street storytellers. Their constant bickering had, surprisingly, forged a deep friendship. My father, a man of simple means, acted without hesitation to protect his friend when danger arose. Upon learning that this friend was none other than the revered emperor, he must have held a measure of respect for some time. Yet, in moments of anger, his true nature would inadvertently surface. The emperor, rather than being offended, found amusement in my father's unabashed manner of arguing with him. During those months, he had set aside state affairs to experience the lives of ordinary citizens, seeking the essence of their humanity. Lin Zhao departed the capital a month after our engagement was confirmed. He had entered the city with great vigor but left feeling utterly disheartened and dejected. It was only when my marriage to the crown prince was finally set that he lost his composure, creating a scene at the duke's residence, demanding to see me. My father had him driven away with a whip, leaving Lin Zhao utterly humiliated. Yet, he seemed to care little for his dignity, insisting on seeing me. I later heard he had wept uncontrollably. Eventually, I did go to meet him, accompanied by the crown prince. Lin Zhao raved in disbelief, questioning the crown prince. "You're the crown prince. Why would you marry someone so lowly, foolish, and greedy?" The crown prince, unperturbed, merely smiled and retorted, "And what is the reason for your current disheveled state?" Lin Zhao fell silent, alternating between tears and laughter, his despair manifesting in desperate gestures. As I departed, he apologized, expressing his belief that I would surely marry him, never imagining I would wed another, now feeling as though my heart was ablaze and simmering in oil. I retorted, "You are nothing but a fraud. You have never truly been scorched by flames or fried in oil. How could you possibly fathom the taste of such experiences? Cease this pretense. You severed your engagement with the Su family, only to turn around and seek my hand in marriage, subjecting me to the scorn of thousands. Your thoughts are perpetually self-centered, never considering the burdens your actions impose on those around you. Lin Zhao, you are a despicable person. A truly wretched individual.
With that,
I turned and departed with the crown prince. He murmured softly, Miss Xiangxiang, how is it that even in anger, your words lack vigor? Perhaps I should return home and take the time to teach you properly. In the 3rd year of spring, as the peach blossoms bloomed in abundance, the crown prince arrived on a magnificent steed to claim me as his bride. Through the joyous fan, I glimpsed his gentle smile, his heart and eyes wholly devoted to me. During the ceremonial rites, he leaned in close to whisper in my ear, Xiangxiang, I can hardly contain my eagerness.
what?
To consummate our union. My cheeks flushed crimson. That night, the red candles flickered brightly, and within the embroidered quilt of mandarin ducks, our gazes intertwined. Tears glistened. Breath came in soft gasps. The heart of the flower gently unfurled, revealing the dew-kissed peony in bloom. Suddenly, I recalled that night, that city, that person, who turned out to be the very one before me, my beloved, my companion.
The end.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and give your support with a like. Until we meet again in the next story.